Good morning, America. Today is Monday, March the 5th, and I believe it's 10:58, 10:59. We're going to continue with our topic. We were talking about the anger of God, and we described his anger in various ways. And what is anger? Anger is a strong feeling of displeasure. A strong feeling of displeasure can also be described as, I'm talking about God's anger, not man's anger. It can be described as wrath. It can be described as fury, rage, arrogant, indignation. Those are a few of the words. Fierce, fearsome. Those are a few words that could describe the anger of God. I wanted to mention something also to the audience. This is a true statement. God is love. Yes, he is. He is love. But God is not always loving to us. When he is angry with us, his indignation, his fury, his rage, all of that spells destruction. Okay? So when you see destruction, it's kind of hard to see love. It's more easier to see anger when you see destruction and death. That's more like anger. So in the same way that we get angry with one another, God gets angry with us. In the same way that we fight each other, sometimes it's verbal fighting, sometimes it's physical fighting, sometimes it's deceptive things that we do. When God fights with his children, when he beats our behind, you could pretty much see that it's been a whipping that we have received. Okay? So it's not a heavy dose of love. It's a heavy dose of wrath. So yes, God is love. And yes, God is more merciful than we are towards each other. He has an abundance of mercy that we are unable to display. And he also has an abundance of patience that supersedes the patience of man. Okay, so this is why they say 1,000 years is but one day to God. Okay, this is why his patience is so vast. Like the space is vast. If you want to know what vast is, just look up into space and see the vastness of it. Look at the oceans and the seas and see how great it is. Well, his patience and his mercies is that vast. His wrath is dangerous. His anger is scary. Okay, so when he is showing anger towards us, he is not showing love. He's showing discipline. In the same way that we as parents have to discipline our children, depending on what they do, will determine what type of discipline that we implement for the behavior that they display. So God does the same thing. He gives us more than enough time to get our act together. And then finally, like a dam that's already weak, bam, there it is. Okay, he has done it over and over and over and over again during the life of this earth. He has dealt with man brutally. Okay, and it's coming. It's been a long time, but it is coming because the world, as it is today, has fallen back into that ditch of pure evilness. And whenever it gets that evil upon the earth, the Lord just does his thing and he wipes things out and leave a few to repopulate. And if he can do it in the biblical time, Because he is a mighty God indeed, he can do it in our time. I pray he doesn't do it in my time. But even then, I will pray for those that I love and those that know God. Because those will be the only survivors, the ones that know God. Even if I love them, if they don't know God, they won't make it through his wrath. And neither will you or I. All of the people of God, he always, as he showed to you in the biblical time when he was dealing with trying to get his children out of Egypt, and he went through the town and he killed many children, beasts, the firstborn of every Egyptian. Every Egyptian. Not one Israelite was touched. So he is able to protect his very own in the midst of his anger. All right. So let's start with the reading for today. It's going to come from 2 Kings chapter 23. Because here it says sometimes his discipline is delayed. That's his patience there. That's his patience working on our behalf. He's waiting for us to turn back to him. So sometimes his discipline is delayed, okay, by centuries. So we're going to read 2 Kings chapter 23. It is a very colorful verse. I'm not going to read it from the Rainbow Bible today, but we're going to be using it anyway to let us know the colors of the verses that we're reading. The first two verses are pink for witnessing. Verse 3 is red for discipleship. Verse 4 to verse 15 is nothing but brown for Satan. Okay? We have some uppercase lettering in verse 27, which is gold. And that is the only verse in here that is uppercase lettering. So we pay special attention to that. And we have 3 verses of olive for commandments. And sporadic verses of brown throughout this whole 37 verses. And a few more, one more verse of red for discipleship, verse 25. We have 1 verse of black for sin. Actually, 3 verses. And then we have a significant amount of silver for history. We're not going to make it to the silver for history because I'm not going to read the entire thing to you in one day. We're going to read most of it today and then finish it off tomorrow. But I will be reading it from this particular book so that you may understand that which I'm reading to you. And we're going to be using this as just our guide. What's going on in 2 Kings chapter 23? Joshua directs the people to obey God. Same thing I'm asking you to obey his commandments. Okay. Joshua is slain in a battle. So we'll read about the death of Joshua. Jehoiakim ranges in Judah, and Jehoiakim ranges in Judah also. We'll read about that. So the first 2 verses are pink for witnessing. Let's begin. In this book, the titling is a little different, so I'm going to read that as we go also. So here it says, Joshua restores true worship. And like I said to you before, what is true worship? True worship, we're going to hear it here. It's going to be explained to you in here how true worship is to be conducted. Okay, today we have this instant worship. 45 minutes and it's done. 2 or 3 verses and it's out of the Bible and it's done. The remaining 35 minutes you're getting meaningless words from your pastor, which are not holy at all. The only holy words you receive are whatever verses he reads from the Bible. That's called the Milky Way Society, this quick fix, bam, there it is. Church is over. The people have gotten a small morsel of the goodness of the Word of God. And then when they get out in the parking lot, that small morsel that they receive does them no good at all. None. All right? But here we always get a heavy dose of the Word of God along with the word of the host. All right? So here it says, Joshua restores true worship. Now the king send them to gather all the elders of Judah and Jerusalem to him. This is the best time in the life of the earth, when the leaders of the country were actually the elders, and the servants of God were the leaders, because everything was around the rules of God on how to handle every offense is in the Bible. Okay, so it was easier. Punishment came swift, and it was merciless. If your actions were merciless, your punishment would be merciless. Just like we read the other day about Achan. When he had stolen something, he stolen some coins, he stole some garments, he stole some bars of gold. He took these items, he put them in his tent under the ground, with the silver on top. And then they went into a battle with the Amalekites, and they got their ass kicked. This, of course, made Joshua and all the other elders rip their clothes. Because when you go into battle and you get whipped, chased down the hill, practically had the servants of God, the people of God, running with their tails in between their heads, that means God was not with you in that battle. So when Joshua ripped his clothes and stayed face down on the ground for almost a whole day, and when the Lord started to speak to his servant and let him know what happened, Joshua had to find out who it was that committed the offense. Joshua had to deal with reprimanding this individual, and unfortunately it was Achan. He asked Achan what happened. Achan explained what happened. Joshua sent 2 messengers to his tent to uncover the items that he had hidden. And then Joshua ordered Achan, his household, his wife, his children, his tent, any family member that lived under his tent, everything was gathered in the street. They stoned everyone. Okay? That's the way the Lord handles things. It's a strong deterrent. It's sad. It's a lesson for all of us. But the way we do it today, we don't discourage crime. We encourage it. A person will commit a horrendous act, and today they get a life sentence. They kill a whole house full of people, cut out the baby out of the womb of the mother, and they get a life sentence. According to the Word of God, these individuals are supposed to be taken to a wall and shot, stoned, or use a sword immediately. That is the strongest deterrent. Okay? Until we do it that way, crime will fester upon this earth, and it's going to get worse and worse and worse. Okay, so back in the biblical times, the leaders were the servants of God, the king, and things were handled differently. And when it came to the word of God, it was read out loud to the entire kingdom. Okay, so let's go. The king went up to the house of the Lord with all the men of Judah, and with him all the inhabitants of Jerusalem. Like I said, the kingdom. Everyone had to go. Everyone. If you needed to pay taxes, everyone had to pay taxes. Everyone. And if you didn't pay your taxes, there were severe consequences for it. Today, you can get away with not paying taxes for years. The priest and the prophet and all the people, both small and great, that means rich and poor, and he read in their hearing all the words of the book of the covenant which had been found in the house of the Lord. That's the Bible. In their ears. Everyone heard it. Okay, 3. Then the king, 3 is read for discipleship. Then the king stood, by a pillar and made a covenant between the Lord to follow the Lord and to keep his commandments and his testimony and his statutes, which are his laws, regarding every offense committed by man. Those are his statutes. Okay? And with all his heart, with all his soul, to perform the words of this covenant that was written in this book. And all the people took a stand for the covenant. 4. We're starting the brown now for Satan. And the king commanded Hilkiah, the high priest, the priest of the second order, and the doorkeepers, which were also priests, to bring out of the temple of the Lord all the articles that were made of Belial, which is a fake god, for Asherah, another fake god, and for all the host of heaven. And he burned them outside Jerusalem in the fields of Kidron, and carried their ashes to Bethel. 5, still brown. Then he removed the idolatrous priests, which we have in abundance now. They don't like to use the word of God. They use maybe 1 or 2 verses, and that's it. Okay? So he removed those priests whom the king of Judah had ordained to burn incense on the high places in the cities of Judah and in the places all around Jerusalem, and those who burn incense to Belial, to the sun, to the moon, to the constellation, and to all the hosts of heaven. Now they worship statues now, like they did in the wilderness. They created this calf, and they were dancing around the calf. So now they have the Buddhas who they worship these statues. Okay. 6, and he brought out the wooden images from the house of the Lord to the brook Kidron outside Jerusalem, burned it at the brook Kidron, and ground it to ashes, and threw its ashes on the graves of the common people. 7, then he tore down the ritual boots of the perverted persons that were in the house of the Lord, where the women wore hanging for the wooden images. 8, and he brought all the priests from the cities of Judah and defiled the high places where the priests had burned incense, from Gibeah to Beersheba. Also he broke down the high places at the gates which were at the entrance of the gates of Joshua, the governor of the city, which were to the left of the city's gate. 9, nevertheless the priests of the high places did not come up to the altar of the Lord in Jerusalem, but they ate unleavened bread among their brethren. These are the idolatrous priests, did not come to the Lord's house. But they did eat unleavened bread among themselves. Okay. If a king was to come, or a president was to come in with this same type of attitude, let me tell you what will happen in America. Same-sex marriages will be repealed. It will be unlawful. All these statues and all these other religions will be abolished. It will be unlawful. But the blessing that we will receive will be mind-blowing, to say the least. To say the least. Gas prices will drop to record low numbers. All kinds of nonsense and crime will cease all across the land. Those are the blessings we will receive, and we have need of them. Ten still brown. And he defiled Tophet, which is in the valley of the sons of Hinnom, that no man might make his son or daughter pass through the fire to Malak. Malak is another false god. And part of their ritual were for you to burn your children, toss them in the fire as a sacrifice to this false god. All that was eliminated. 11. Then he removed the horses that the king of Judah had dedicated to the sun at the entrance of the house of the Lord by the chambers of Nathan Melech, the officer who was in the court, and he burned the chariots of the sun with fire. 12. The altars that were on the roof, the upper chamber of Ahaz, which the king of Judah had made, and the altars which Manasseh had made in 2 courts of the house of the Lord. In the house of the Lord they made these things and put them in the house of the Lord. Oh, they're much more evil today because in the 1900s, they started stealing from the graves of the Egyptian king. And these things that were buried with these kings are now in museums all across the land. Those who were involved in the unearthing of these things, the robbery of these graves, did not live long to talk about it. Okay, back to $12. The altars that were on the roof, the upper chamber of Ahaz, which the king of Judah had made, and the altars which Manasseh had made in the 2 courts of the house of the Lord, the king broke down and pulverized there, and threw their dust into the brook Kidron. 13. Then the king defiled the high places that were east of Jordan, of Jerusalem, which were on the south of the Mount of Corruption, which Solomon, king of Israel, had built for Ashtoreth, the abomination of Sidonians, for the Chimans, the abomination of the Moabites, and for the Melkan, the abomination of the people of Ammon. 14. So these particular people worship these different gods. All that was eliminated. 14. Then he broke in pieces the sacred pillars and cut down the wooden images. This was a awesome king. Awesome. He was 100% for God. 100%. Okay. And filled their places with the bones of men. Okay. 15, still brown. Moreover, the altars that were at Bethel with the high places which Jeroboam the son of Nebat, who made Israel sin, had made, both that altar and the high places he broke down, and he burnt the high places and crushed it to powder, and burned the wooden images. 16, which is gold for prophecy. As Joshua turned, he saw the tombs that were there on the mountains, and he sent and took the bones out of the tombs and burned them on the altar, and defiled it according to the word of the Lord, which the man of God proclaimed, who proclaimed these words. Then, 17, he said, "What gravestone is this that I see?" So the men of the city told him, "It is the tomb of the man of God who came from Judah and proclaimed these things which you have done against the altar of Bethel." 18 is pink for 17 was also pink for witnessing. 18 is also pink for witnessing. Then he said, "Let him alone. Let no one move his bone." Why? Because he was the man of God. That's why. Those bones could not be disturbed. Okay. And he said, Joshua, "Let him alone. Let no one move his bones." So they let his bones alone with the bones of the prophet who came from Samaria. Okay. 18, 19 is back to brown again for Satan, and so is 20. Now Joshua also took away all the shrines of the high places that were in the cities of Samaria, which the king of Israel had made to provoke the Lord to anger, and he did to them according to the deeds he had done in Bethel. 18. He executed all the priests of the high places who were there on the altars and burned men's bones on them, and he returned to Jerusalem. He literally killed every last one of them. Literally. That's a powerful leader. That's a true man of God. That's how it's done. Regardless of how harsh it may seem to thee, it is always the only way to get things back in order. It is the only way. Man ways never work. They never work and they never will. I don't care what time it is. Man's ways will never work. Period. We're going to stop at 28. 21. Then the king commanded all the people, saying, "Keep the Passover to the Lord your God, as it is written in this book of the covenant." And it is written in this book that I'm reading. Okay? 22. Such a Passover surely had never been held since the days of the judge who judged Israel, nor in all the days of the kings of Israel and the kings of Judah. 23. I'm sorry. Let me go back here and read 21, 22, and 23, because it is here it is in olive. It's a commandment. This is something that we must follow forevermore. So I will read it from my book. And the king commanded all the people, saying, "Keep the Passover unto the Lord your God, as it is written in the book of this covenant." 23. Surely there was none holding such a Passover from the days of the judge that judged Israel, nor in all the days of the kings of Israel, nor of the kings of Judah. 23, still Allah. But in the 18th year of King Joshua, wherein this Passover was held to the Lord in Jerusalem. So every available walking, crawling soul made it to Jerusalem. Okay. That's a great nation indeed. That's what makes a great nation, America. It's not the modern technology. It's not the politician. It's the God that they worship. That's what makes us a great nation. Not the president. Nothing man has made make us a great nation. What makes us a great nation is our devotion to the God of this universe. There's only one. He has a son. His name is Jesus Christ. One God, one son. "24, we're not going to end off with brown. We're going to take it to 25. 24 is brown for Satan. Moreover, Joshua put away those who consulted mediums and spirituals, the household gods and idols, all the abominations that were seen in the land of Judah and in Jerusalem, that he might perform the words of the law which was written in the book that Hilkiah the priest found in the house of the Lord. 25. It's read for discipleship. Now before him there was no kings like him, no even presidents like this king. It's been a long time, America. It's been a long time. And do you know what needs to happen to get it back to this? There has to be a war on earth. Did you hear me? There has to be a war on earth. The war will be between the good and the evil. Between those that want to take it back to God and those that don't. It will be a war worse than World War I, the Veterans War, the Vietnam War. All of those wars won't compare to this war here. Of biblical proportions. It's coming. Now, 25, before him there was no king like him, who turned to the Lord with all his heart, with all his soul, with all his might, according to all the laws of Moses. Nor after him did any arise like him unto this day. 26, impending judgment on Judah. That's the black verse I was telling you about. Nevertheless, the Lord did not turn from the fierceness of his great wrath, with which his anger was arose against Judah, because of all the provocations with which Manasseh had provoked him. 27. And the Lord said, which is here, I'm going to read it from here, because it is that one verse that I was telling you about, the uppercase lettering, and it is a goal for prophecy. Anything that is gold in prophecy will come to pass. Anything. And the Lord said, here comes the uppercase lettering, I will remove Judah also out of my sight, as I have removed Israel, and will cast off this city, Jerusalem, which I have chosen, and the house of which I said my name shall be there. I said we will stop at 28. That is silver for history. I will read that also from here. 27. So you can see how it is written in here. And the Lord said, I will also remove Judah from my sight, as I have removed Israel, and will cast off this city Jerusalem, which I have chosen, and the house of which I have said my name shall be there. Then this particular verse 29, right before it, it has a subtitle. It says Joshua dies in battle. 28, now the rest of the acts of Joshua and all that he did, are they not written in the book of Chronicles of the kings of Judah? We will continue from 29 on to 37 tomorrow if I live and nothing happens to me. But the moral of the story today, America, is that it really never pays to turn your back on God. It is the worst thing that mankind could ever do. Just because God has not summoned his angels to this earth to bring straight up destruction does not mean that it's not coming. The Lord is a patient God. And as I said, he gives us more than enough time to make that turn. And if we fail to do it, then whatever comes down the pike we surely deserve. Thank you very much for listening to us here at Spiritual Water. My name is Brenda Guerrero. And as always, may the peace of God be upon thee. May the protection of God surround thee. And may the will of God for your life come from thee. Until the next time, enjoy the rest of your day.